Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. FPL Consult here, and today we're going to take a look at the ultimate Game Week 7 wildcard guide. So in this video, we're going to cover everything relating to wildcarding in Game Week 7. If you do enjoy it, please give it a like and also subscribe as well if you are new around here. Right, so let's talk a little bit about the third forward options first before we move on with the video, and that's because I know a lot of us who are wildcarding are already thinking about having 3 up top. Right, there are a lot of good forward options popping up right now, and I have this list here that is according to price. Right, it's Watkins at 7.3 mil at the top, all the way down to Solanke at 5.7 mil. Now, a lot of these players here in this list have a reason to be here, right? So Toney, Isak, Mitrovic and Solanke, of course, we know recently they scored in game week 6, and also Toney and Mitrovic have been really consistent, right? But Watkins and Antonio, I felt like including them in this list because of their fixtures. Now, if you take a look, Watkins has Leicester away, and then Southampton at home, Leeds away, and Nottingham Forest away before Chelsea at home in game week 11. Now, that's a really good fixture run for him. And as for Antonio as well, after Newcastle at home, it's just a sea of green fixtures there. So all these strikers, I feel, have a little bit of a shout to be that third striker for you. And let's say you don't want Jesus, you can also consider having 2 out of the players in this list here, right? So in general, I feel like all these players should be considered, but right now let's compare the 2 that a lot of us, I think, are considering, and that's Toney and Mitrovic. So taking a closer look at these 2, because they really have been on fire recently, right, let's kind of list the pros and cons of going for either of them. So if you're going to go for Toney, he is 0.3 mil more expensive, and in terms of the stats, right, Mitrovic has better stats than Toney, right? But obviously we know that game week 6 he's coming off a hat-trick, and on top of that he does have the better fixtures going into the next 3 game weeks, where he has Southampton away in game week 7, Game week 9 he has Bournemouth away, and then game week 8 he has Arsenal at home, which is a tougher fixture, but we know Brentford are better at home. In the Brentford Community Stadium, they are very strong at home, right? So let's move over to Mitrovic now, and we take a look at him, right? Stats wise, he is really strong, right? And there has been some talk about how Fulham are a different side, right? Different from the last few times where we've seen them come up to the Premier League and then they just flop down to the Championship again, right? They're no longer that kind of team. This season we are seeing a new Fulham, and a really strong one. And in terms of results, they have been pulling off some decent results. Obviously, a draw against Liverpool in the first game week kind of set the tone for them. And in general, we are expecting some good returns from Fulham players, and there have been some talk about whether Mitrovic is actually fixture proof. He's actually scored against all the big opponents that they've recently played. So there's every chance that in the next coming game weeks, he could also repeat that same feat. Right, so it's really close between them, but I thought it's important for us to list the pros and cons before we go into the wildcard draft. Now the next question is obviously, is Salah essential? Right, those of you who are wildcarding in game week 7, you're probably wondering whether to include Salah or not. And if you guys are looking for something to tell you not to include Salah, I think you've come to the right place. Right, so I'm for the idea as well, and there are a couple of reasons to back this. Now statistically speaking, he's had 6 starts out of the 6 game weeks. He's only had 5 shots on target, so that's less than 1 shot on target per game, which obviously we know Salah isn't this kind of player. He's usually a player that takes a lot of shots, right, gets a lot of chances, and this is really a shocking statistic. Right, he's only had 2 goals recently. His expected goals per 90, expected assists per 90 also paled in comparison to last season. Now, it's important for us to recognize that Salah this season is different from the Salah of last season. The positions he's being deployed and the influence of Darwin Núñez as well has really affected that. Right, and I think it's important for us to take a look at the stats, so I'll display in the next section, but I just want to focus on the fixtures here first. Right, from game week 7 to game week 11, there's only 1 green fixture. That's Wolves at home in game week 7. Thereafter, there's Chelsea away, Brighton at home, Arsenal away, Man City at home. They're all tough fixtures for Liverpool. So there's every reason that we don't have to include Salah in game week 7, right, and then try to find ways to bring him back in game week 12 if he kind of pops off, right? But I'm honestly not banking on Salah returning a lot from game week 7 to game week 11. So if I was wildcarding in game week 7, I doubt I would actually include Salah in my wildcard draft. So this section is to kind of compare in detail Salah of last season versus this season. Now, if we can see the diagram in the middle, I think it's pretty obvious that statistically wise, he is paling in comparison, right? There are so many factors in this metric here that he is kind of underperforming, right? Last season, he's had better expected points, expected goals. He had more chances, more shots in general. And the only statistic that this season is doing better than last season is the chances created. Now, as I mentioned just now as well, I think this has something to do with how wide he is. Now, he has been starting really wide. If you can take a look at the heat map as well, just above me here, right, his heat map is generally concentrated towards the right, as opposed to last season where we see his heat map is actually kind of intruding into the right side of the penalty box, and that's where we want to see him, right, cutting in, taking shots. He's doing less of that this season, and he's hugging the touch line more, and that's generally not what we want. He's putting in more crosses, right, and that's why he's getting more chances created, right, and that's the only stat that is outperforming last season. But that's not what we want. We want Salah who is taking shots, right, and we want a Salah who's on penalties, and we also want a Salah who's going to get goals for us, right, not just assists. Right, so in general, we are looking at a very different Salah, and I think that if I'm wildcarding, there is fairly sufficient reason for me to not include Salah in my wildcard draft. So taking all of these into consideration, here is my Game Week 7 wildcard draft. So the squad value is 100.5 mil. Now some of you may have more money, some of you may have less, right? So I have provided some potential upgrades and downgrades as well. So we're going to go with the 3-4-3 formation. I think if you're wildcarding in Game Week 7, it just makes sense for you to get ahead of the pack and just start straight out with 3 up top, because the template is already shifting towards there. So we're going to go with Nick Pope in goal. Now, Newcastle have been really good defensively. We already know that. And obviously, the other option is Trippier as well, right? But I have him on the bench because West Ham away isn't technically a very good fixture, right? I think they could provide some problems for the Newcastle defense. So I wouldn't want to double up on them. But Trippier, I think it's someone that's going to come into this team a lot if you are wildcarding with this team, right? And then in defense, we're going to start with Trent, James and Walker. Now, there have been talk about how Liverpool have been really poor defensively, but I think with Trent, we already know his attacking potential. We're not just getting clean sheet points. So in the event that Liverpool do kind of find some form back as well, and he does get clean sheets, with attacking returns, that's 3 bonus points for him and double-digit haul there, right? So we do have to take into consideration the explosiveness of Trent as well. And same goes for James as well, because Chelsea's defense hasn't been the best, right? But when he pops off, he really does, right? So Walker is there to kind of cover for Cancelo, who is someone who has been underperforming his attacking stats based on last season, right? Trent and James have been keeping that up, right? But Cancelo is someone who has been dropping off in the attacking sense. So that's why I've gone for Walker to get that City defensive coverage. Now in midfield, we have Sinisterra, Martinelli, Trossard and De Bruyne. Now, all of them have reason to be here, and they have, obviously very good form, right? Sinisterra is coming off a good performance, back-to-back goals. Trossard as well, right? Martinelli, we know, is the best budget pick. I feel like at 6.5 mil, he is still the best out of the rest of them. When fixtures turn for Arsenal, maybe we can swap him out, right? And De Bruyne is obviously the best replacement for Salah, right? At this point, not even Son kind of, fares as well as De Bruyne, because we're talking about City here, and City have created so many chances, De Bruyne at the heart of it, and he has gotten only 1 goal, but I think with City's fixtures coming up, and also, how important De Bruyne is to that City team, there's lots of assists and maybe possibly goals in there for De Bruyne as well, right? And up front, we have Haaland, Jesus and Toney. I feel like at this point in time, this is my preferred front 3, right? For my own team, I can't afford Toney, so I'm probably going to go for Mitrovic, but if you're wildcarding, I honestly think that this front 3 at this point is the best front 3 to have, right? So on the bench, let's take a look. We have Ward in goal as the first substitute keeper. Now, obviously, Ward at 4.0 mil, Leicester defense is really poor, so he's just going to be there as a bench option. I doubt we're going to start him. And then there's Trippier, as mentioned just now. Neco Williams and Andreas thereafter are the 2 best bench fodders out there this season, right? They've been really stellar. Neco Williams actually got an assist in Game Week 6 as well, right? Andreas, as we know, he's been getting some assists here and there, picking up some bonus points as well. honestly the best 4.5 mil midfielder, and I think he's risen in price to 4.6 now. Right, so there we go. This is the team. Some potential upgrades if you have more money is Sinistera up to Zaha. I think Zaha is someone who could really profit from Crystal Palace's good run of fixtures coming up. Right, all the way up to Game Week 16, they are quite high up the fixture ticker. And if you want to downgrade to kind of save some money, I think Toney to Mitrovic isn't a bad substitute at all. Right, so there we go. This is the team. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope it actually helps you guys who are wildcarding to start tinkering with a draft that maybe doesn't have Salah. Right, if you have Salah, if you want to include Salah, you can actually just bring Salah in for De Bruyne. Right, maybe swap around some players, but I think this is still a good starting place. Right, so if you did enjoy it, please give it a like, subscribe as well if you are new around here, and I will see you guys in another video very soon. Bye bye.